Yeah, now the recording is starting. Okay, so what we discussed in our previous session?
Hibernate.
Yeah, Hibernate. So have you guys practiced Hibernate? Have you guys practiced it?
ఏం చేస్తున్నారు సంధ్య రాయాలి
Okay, so maybe you guys can practice. Uh,
ఏం చేసిన
Anyone will be done with our batch today.
మాట్లాడినా డాడీ వాళ్ళు తమ్ముడు సుమోల అత్తగారు వాళ్ళ ఇంటి దేవుడి దగ్గర పోయింది బాగా వాళ్ళు ఎంత ఒక బస్ మంది
Hello?
మమ్మీ వెళ్ళలేదు ఇక 1 మంత్ అయింది
Hello? Yeah. Okay. So today we'll be discussing about Spring Framework, right? And also about REST services. Alright? So till now what have we discussed? We have discussed about Java, PHP, Servlets, JDBC, right? JavaScript, right?
HTML,
Yeah, HTML.
MySQL.
Yeah, HTML I haven't explained much. I asked you guys to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like JavaScript Struts 1.3 as well as Struts 2.0.
X.
Yeah, 2.x. And we discussed about
Hibernate.
right? Also JavaScript. Yeah. So we have discussed about Apache Tomcat as well, right? And MySQL, right?
Yeah.
So tell me now, are you guys comfortable whatever we have discussed? At least you guys got some knowledge out of it, anything? At least you guys are confident enough.
Yeah.
Everyone? Okay. Yeah. So I think we have been taking session from, yeah, we have been taking this session from almost 45 days, right? More than 45 days. Uh, guys, like if you guys can please put on mute, it is disturbing others. Yeah. So today we'll be finalizing our batch with learning, Spring and RESTful websites. Alright. So
Yeah.
to these topics we will add Spring, also REST APIs. Okay. So with this we'll be done with our complete Java learning. Alright. Also, again I am reiterating, see, we are not 100% done. Whatever we have learned whatever which is required, the basic minimum things, and at least you can just implement on top of it. So you have learned all the process and procedures how to implement different frameworks, right? There are lot other things that you can implement using those things, but due to time constraints we cannot discuss each and every topic. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so we'll come back to Spring. So we'll start Spring today. So what is Spring? Spring is a framework. So do you guys have any idea what a Spring framework is?
It is also like MVC.
Uh, a part of it. Okay. What else? Okay, that's fine. So Spring framework, right? I can say Spring is a framework which fits every layer, right? So according to me, I named it as universal framework. Why? Because see, if you consider MVC, yes, Spring works. Spring has a module called MVC. If you consider middle tier or core, yes, Spring works there. If you consider security, Yes, Spring works there. If you consider JDBC template, JDBC template, there also Spring works. If you consider JMS, which is Java Messaging Service, Spring works there too. So Spring is a framework that fits in almost like each and every layer, and it has its own advantages and disadvantages, right? So what is a Spring? It is a framework which fits everywhere. Alright, and out of this it has different modules. It has something called AOP as well, which is aspect oriented programming. Alright, so these are all the different modules that Spring supports. Out of all these, the most commonly or frequently used frameworks are Spring MVC and Spring Core. Alright, so today we are going to discuss about Spring MVC and Spring Core. Now, the main advantage of using Spring is everything is configurable. You will configure everything in the form of XML. Am I recording this session?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just let me confirm. Yeah. Okay. So we'll configure everything in the form of XMLs. So we'll do lot of configurations rather than doing lot of jobs or lot of business logic or lot of coding. We'll do lot of configurations. Okay, what makes Spring so popular? As I have mentioned, one of the best feature is it fits every layer. So if you consider struts only fits in MVC framework, right? It only fits in MVC layer. How about middle tier? Middle tier you have to use a different framework. Security you have to use a different framework. Likewise, JDBC template you have to use JDBC framework or Hibernate, right? So instead of using different frameworks, we can use Springs itself, because Spring itself will provide us lot of all ready-made classes, ready-made things, so that you can just include that and you can just use it. Make sense? Now you got to know what is the advantage of a Spring framework. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing is mainly, first of all, what is an object? We'll get to the basic concept again. What is an object?
Instance of a class
Object is instance of a class. How do you create an object?
by new keyword.
Yes, by using new. So now the beautiful advantage of Spring is you will not be creating any new object anywhere, So you will not be using any new things. Everything you'll be doing using configuration files. Alright? Okay. What does that mean? So instead of creating objects, right, you will be loading the objects when the container starts up. What is container? Container is nothing but the Spring XML. Alright. So what we will do, generally we have controller, and controller needs to call DOO methods, right? We have done an example of that in the past. Do you guys agree? Let me show you that example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from login action, what we did? Come on. Yeah. So from login action, we need to call login DOO methods. So in order to call login DOO methods, what is that we did? We created an object for login DOO and we tried to call the login DOO method. So what are you doing here? The main thing, you are creating a new object. So like this, for every scenario, if you want to create every new object, it is a mess. Correct? If you have multiple things and you have to create lot of new objects, it is a mess. So now what Spring offers you? Spring says you need not create new object. I will provide you all the necessary objects. You use it whenever you want it. That is what Spring says. Okay. Okay, how does it does? How it will implement it, right? So Spring has, as I said, if you are using any kind of a framework or any different third-party application, what is that? What is the main thing that it will implement? It requires a configuration file, correct? Right or wrong?
Yeah.
Right. So it requires a configuration file.
Yes.
Yeah. So likewise, even Spring has different configuration files. If you are working on Spring middle tier, which is Spring core, you will be loading springbeans.xml. And you can name that XML anything, right? You can name that XML anything. But all you have to do is you have to refer that correct XML name when you are invoking your program, right? And if you are working on Spring MVC, then you'll be using a different configuration file. Make sense? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's about Spring. Okay. We are saying we are not creating a new object. So now Spring has a concept called dependency injection, right? Okay. What do you mean by dependency injection? So don't at all worry about this term dependency injection. So now what are we doing here? In the login action, what are we doing here? We have created a new instance of login DAO, right? And we are calling the methods that are present in the login DAO using login DAO object. Make sense? Okay. Now if you clearly observe here, this is the login action, right? Or action class we have implemented in the structs. Correct? We have done this in our previous sessions. Do you guys remember or forgot?
Yeah.
Right? We have done all this coding. So what we did, we are using an action class, and action class is dependent on DAO. So to complete the login action class's functionality, what it requires? It requires the DAO call as well, right? See, this is the whole action functionality. So in order to complete this whole functionality, we are having or we are requiring the support of DAO class, right? Make sense? So now,
Yeah.
yeah, so now what we are saying, we are dependent on a different layer or a different class. Now, we are saying we are dependent on that class. Then in Spring, how can we use the dependent class? Instead of creating a new object, we will inject that object, right? So what is dependency injection? If in a project, if one layer is dependent on other layer, right, you'll be injecting that dependent layer object in the required layer. Make sense? Right? If you are having a dependency object, if you are requiring a dependency class in your project, any of your project layer, what you will do? You will be configuring that class as a dependency in the XML file, and also you will be injecting that required dependency in the calling layer. Do you guys understand anything out of it or no? Okay, so don't worry about this statement. First of all, I'll try to explain it once again. So here we have implemented struts login action, correct? So in order to login action to perform its complete implementation, it is depending on some other thing. What is the some other class or some other layer?
Object.
DAO. It is dependent on DAO. So why it is dependent on DAO? Okay, execute method is getting values from JSP, that is fine. But after getting the values from JSP, what are we doing? We are checking that with the database. So it is waiting on confirmation from the DAO whether the details are valid or not. So that means we can safely say it is dependent on DAO, right? So action is dependent on DAO, right or wrong? You guys are not
Yeah.
following?
Yeah.
Everyone? Action is dependent on DAO. How can we say that it is dependent on DAO? Because in order to complete that actions logic, you're expecting some business logic from DAO. But how you will get the object of DAO? You will be configuring that in XML. What XML and how you will have to configure, we will learn. But before learning that, I'm just giving a definition. Right, we will be configuring that in the XML and we'll be injecting means you will be setting. Don't think that the property of injecting is something different. Injecting is nothing but setting, right? Injecting the required dependency. So what we'll be doing here, instead of creating a new object here, we'll be injecting that object to the login action class and we'll be calling the methods. Okay, how can we do that? Right, as we are saying. So now you guys got to know what a dependency injection is.
Yeah.
So now what is the dependency injection? Now we'll get back to our statement. If you are requiring any dependency class in any of your project layer, say consider this project layer as action, and you are requiring any dependency class and you consider this dependency class as DAO. So this dependency class is required in our action. Then how can you implement that? Instead of creating a new object, you will be configuring the dependent class in the XML and you will be injecting that in the action layer. Got it? Make sense or no? Am I confusing you guys? Hello?
Yes.
Others? Am I confusing you or you guys are okay?
Yeah, okay.
Everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, this is just a definition, but we will learn when we write the practical program, then we will learn how it works. So, Naresh is getting echoes, it seems. So, are you guys getting echoes?
Yeah, sometimes.
So, the problem is from my end or anyone else's system? Now, how is it now? Is it better?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, we are getting echo from other.
Okay, so then you guys, everyone mute. Only I will talk. Whenever you want to ask any questions or if you have any doubts, just respond to me. Okay, so everyone else just keep yourself on mute.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. So just stop me if anyone of you guys are not able to hear my voice properly or echoes, just stop me in the middle so that we can try to rectify it. Okay, yeah. So that is about dependency injection. So now, as a first example, what we will do, we will try to learn Spring Core module, and we have learned about dependency injection. And again, one other thing is we will be talking more about objects, right, in our regular programming. So we'll be talking more about, okay, create an object, use that object, right? Now in Spring framework, the terminology will be changed to beans. Beans are nothing but objects. So how we are saying that okay, we have to create an object or we have to use an object to call a different function or a different method in a different class. We'll be saying use the bean to call a different function, right? So bean is nothing but an object, right? Okay. So in general, for an object, what are the different scopes we discussed? What are the different scopes we discussed? Request.
Public, private.
Yeah, that is scope. I mean, that is access modifiers. But what are all the attributes that you can set to? Object can be set to a request attribute, session attribute, right? We discussed this while discussing the session tracking, right? You can just set to session, application level, right? Like that, even Spring Beans also follows some scopes: request scope, session scope, application scope, and the main thing is by default the scope of a Spring Bean is singleton. What do you mean by singleton? Singleton means you can create or that will allow you to create a single object, not multiple objects. Alright, what does it mean? So what is a singleton? Singleton is a pattern which will allow you to create only one object. So if you want to call methods in that object, you will reuse the same object again and again to call the methods, but you will not create multiple objects. Make sense? Instead of creating multiple objects, you will be creating only single object throughout your program, right? You will not be creating multiple objects. Now there is another scope in Spring. Okay, see here we are saying singleton by default is a scope for Spring Framework, and that will create only single object throughout the project. Now what if you want to create multiple scenarios? Then you will declare your bean object as prototype. So then you will create multiple objects. So Spring is providing you the capability both creating a single object throughout it, also by providing multiple objects throughout the project. So when we discussed about object was having only few scopes: request, session, application, like that. So now Spring Bean is nothing but it is a kind of an object. It is also an object, but you are naming or you are terming it as bean. What are the different scopes? Along with request, session, application, we also have singleton and prototype. What is the default scope of Spring Bean? What is the default scope of Spring Bean? Singleton. What is singleton?
It allows to create one object.
Singleton is only one object per project, single object. Okay? Yeah.
What's the advantage of singleton?
Yeah, so what is happening is, so here you are not creating any multiple objects, right? So you are not creating multiple objects, you are not occupying more memory. So what is happening is, initially you will be loading the beans by using the Spring container, and you will be just referring to that and calling the methods whenever you require. So you are not creating multiple objects. So anyways, in any scenario, if you are creating multiple objects, right? Multiple objects means for the same kind of a scenario, you will be creating multiple objects. So you may be required of creating multiple objects or you are not required. But you are serving that purpose using just by creating a one object. So what is happening? So instead of creating multiple objects, you are just using a single object to perform all your operations. So what is the advantage of using that? You are avoiding creating multiple objects. Everything you are achieving using single object. Clear? No?
Okay.
See, anytime, see what is object? See, we have already discussed the two different types of memories. What are the two different types of memories we have?
Stack and heap.
Stack and heap. Okay, what is stack?
Stack memory where the method calls and argument will be
Yeah,
stored.
method calls, right? Method calls and the parameters that are used. Now, what is heap?
It stores all objects.
Object memory. So,
Object memory.
heap is something where you store all the objects memory. Now, what are you doing here? You are not creating. If you create multiple objects will be stored in the heap memory, right? Definitely it will be a performance impact, right? Now, here what we are saying, here Spring is providing a capability of creating single object per JVM, per project, per instance. So what you are achieving, instead of creating multiple object, you are achieving the same thing using single object. All right? Is it clear or no? Okay, that's fine. So when we get to the example, right? So then you guys will understand what a singleton is. How does it work? Okay? Yeah. Second thing. And someone messaged me. Okay. Nikhil is asking, can I elaborate on the scope of objects? What do you mean by session and application and request? Okay, fine. So we have different scopes, right? So what is request scope? When we discussed initially servlets and other things, what we discussed? Request.
Like
URL.
where
So the
we are
lifetime.
giving
Okay, okay, fine. I'll try to just recollect it. I'll just explain it again. So request is nothing but the life cycle or the scope of a request object will lies between request and response. What does that mean? If a request is processed or a request is requested, then what is the life cycle of that request object? Until it serves a response back, it will hold. So once the response is served, the request scope is done. It will not live anymore. Alright? Do you guys agree? Or do you guys clear or no?
Yeah, clear.
So request is a scope which will be available until the response is served. So that's what we have learned, right? Request response. So the life cycle of a request will be until a response will be served. Once the response is served, yeah, then I'm done. So you'll be just be clearing the request scope. That's it. Now, session. What do you mean by session? Session, we have already discussed this session. So we did an example. If you guys remember, we have created session.set attribute when we were discussing about servlets, or I don't remember exactly, servlets or struts, right? Why we were using, if you want to save some objects in the session, as long as the user in the session, right? Then you'll use session. Say for example, if you log into your banking site, say Bank of America or ICICIbank.com, any banking site. So what you will do when you log into any of the banking sites, as long as you are logged in your session, you can access any of other your links, right? Okay, leave about it. Just your Gmail, go to your Gmail. If you log into any of your Gmail, right, you can access any of your logged in tabs, right? If you want to go to inbox, you can just go. If you want to go to your sent mails, you can just click on it. But what will be the scope? How till when you can access those all those things? Until you are in session. What if you logs out of your Gmail? Can you access those? No, because you are getting out of your session. So the scope of the session is until the user is within the session or until the user is logged in. Clear? Is it clear? Okay. Now,
Yeah.
okay. And also session is for every individual user. Every user will have its own session. See, we have Gmail account, gmail.com, right? So gmail.com, you will be having one session because you will be logging with your own login ID. I will be having another session because I will be logging with my own ID, right? So our sessions will be different. But what is application? If you want to maintain global data that should be served for everyone, application wise. So if you want to share information throughout the application, then you will be using object called application scope, so that you can share your data across your application. So it will not depends on your session. Say for example, okay, let me log into my Gmail. Alright, see here we have our Gmail. Now we have different links, right? So if you are having session scope, till when you are able to access this, all the email inbox, all the different things and all, right? Till when you will be accessing? Until you're logging out of the session. Make sense about session? Okay, we'll just log in back to our application again. Now, what is application? Application is a scope that will be accessed throughout the application. Now, if you see here, there are different applications that Google provides. So, this is common to everyone else, or this is only common to you? This will be accessible to everyone else, right? If you just click on this menu icon, see, these mails are specific to user. Say for example, I got mails from Revanth Reddy, Likita Reddy, Naresh, Neha, like different persons. So these are my mails. So will you guys be seeing my mails? No, right? Every user will own their own session. So it will be visible to them. Now, what if I go to a generic one? These are generic details and these are common to everyone else. So if you want to maintain details that are common to every user, then you will be using the scope called application. Make sense? Is it clear or no?
Yeah, clear.
Everyone? Nikhil? Yeah. So that is about
Yeah,
different
clear.
scopes. Okay. Coming back to our application then. Okay. So now, okay, we have learned about dependency injection. We have learned about Spring Bean scopes, and we have learned about Spring Core. Okay, how can you implement a Spring application then? Say for example, you are saying Spring is best used for avoiding creating a new object. Okay, how to do that? How can you implement that? We'll do a simple example, right? Okay, so coming back to our application. So here what we'll do, we'll just create a simple application. So again, what we'll be using? Oh, okay, and also we have discussed Maven also as a build and dependency management tool, correct? Okay, so now we'll be creating a new project. What type of a project we'll create?
Maven.
Maven. And this is a Spring application and just Spring Core. So what we'll be doing, we'll be just using a Spring Quick Start project. So Maven Quick Start project. So com Spring. I'll name the application as Spring. Right? Where is my application? It's here. Right? Okay. So now what I have mentioned, if we are using any third-party frameworks, what is that we have to do? What is it we have to do? We have to add dependencies in pom.xml. Right? You guys forgot completely? Hello? You need to add the dependencies for Spring. So what are the dependencies for Spring core project? We'll add them, right? So now what we will do, we will just go here and we will try to add the dependency. Why are we adding dependencies?
Here it must know, right? We are
Yeah,
using Spring.
so our project should know that we are using Spring framework. Okay, so what is the group ID? The group ID of Spring is org.spring framework. What is the artifact ID? It will be Spring core. What is the version? Spring. We'll work on Spring 3, right? Scope, we'll just not use, we are not using this for test, we are using this for our application. So this is Spring. Now along with this we need another dependency also. What is the other dependency? Spring context. So in order to just write your application, a simple Spring based application, you require both of these, right? And what version of Spring we are using?
3.
Spring 3. I think we have Spring 4 also as the latest thing, but it is very latest and I haven't done any examples on that. So I don't want to take that example because I have already experienced Spring 3. So I'm explaining the same thing. So here again, the same thing you'll do. Instead of using Spring 3, you will be giving a Spring 4. Alright. Spring 4 as thing. Okay. Why Spring context is required? Okay. Alright. So where do you store your beans? So we are saying that your beans will be loaded and stored somewhere, right? When the XML is invoked. But where these beans are stored? These beans are stored in Spring context, right? Because those beans will be used across application, not a single scenario or not one scenario. You need to use those Spring beans across your application, right? So in order to make sure that you are using throughout the Spring context, you require Spring context. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Second thing, we are done with pom.xml. So what is that we will do? We will just try to create a simple project. We already created a project. We will try to create a simple class. Okay. What is that class? Okay. So in com.spring, we'll create a class called welcome spring. Okay. So in this welcome spring, what we will do? We will try to create, this is a simple Pojo, right? This is a simple Pojo. What do you mean by a Pojo? A simple Java class with getters and setters, nothing else. It's getters and setters. What we will do? Private string name, right? And after this, what we will do? We will just create getters and setters. Make sense? What have we done? We just created a simple Pojo with an attribute, and we have created getters and setters. Now we will be writing our business logic method. What is the business logic method? We will specify what we are going to implement out of it. So we will write public void print message or print welcome. So I'm creating a function, or I'm creating a method that prints welcome, right? And here I'll say welcome, and I'll print the name that we will be passing. Where we will get this name? See, we are saying name, but from where you will get this name? We will see that. So till now, what have we done? We have just created the POM, and we have just created a simple file, simple Java class with our getters and setters and a public method. This is a business logic method. Make sense? Alright. Now, the next important thing. What is the important thing? I said for any framework, there will be a main configuration file. What is the main configuration file for Spring? You can name it anything. So, what you will do? Where do we write all our configuration files? Resources. So there. So what you guys want to name that file? Spring beans.xml, right? Anything, whatever you want to name, you can just name it. Spring beans.xml. All right. Now, okay. So what is that you have to do here? Here you have to mention everything in the form of beans, right or wrong? Why you have to mention everything in the form of beans? Because that is what we have learned in Spring. Instead of referring everything in terms of objects, we will refer in terms of beans. Correct? Okay. How can you refer them as beans? So in order to use the Spring related tags, you need to use the Spring related the namespace. So we cannot remember the whole namespace. So what we will do, we'll just try to search in Google. Sample Spring Bean configuration XML. Alright. Alright. So this one. See, if you ask myself, I cannot remember this whole thing. Alright, it is not required to remember also. See, we are working on several different frameworks. Like we are saying Spring, we are saying Struts, we are saying JMS, we are saying JSF, we are saying different framework, Hibernate. So is it mandatory to require to remember these things, this whole thing? That's fine. So just go to Google and search it. How to configure the Spring Beans XML. This is the root of any XML, right? Not any XML, the Spring related XML. So why it is named as beans? Because in Spring, everything is named in the form of beans. Everything will be accessed as or termed as beans. Okay. Okay. We have started the tag and we have ended the tag. Okay. If we consider the same thing in different frameworks, if you are taking struts config, what is the root tag? Struts config. If you are using struts2, what is the root tag? It is struts. If you are considering Hibernate configuration, what is the root tag? Hibernate config. And if you are considering Hibernate mapping file, HBM file, what is the root tag? Not HBM, Hibernate mapping. It is Hibernate mapping. See, this is HBM file, and what is the root tag? Hibernate mapping. If it is CFG, then it is Hibernate configuration. Likewise, if it is Spring, then what is the root tag? It is beans. Why it is beans? Because you will refer everything in Spring as beans. Beans is nothing but an object. It is nothing but an object. Alright? Okay. Are you guys clear till now?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we will do? We have created a simple XML. Now we are saying we will be configuring the dependency in XML. Okay, how we are going to do that? So here there is a tag called bean. So in this bean tag, you will specify your logic. Bean ID. So what is this bean we are creating? Welcome Spring. So we will create object as welcome Spring. So now what is this ID? So this is the name of the object you will be using. Right? This is the name of the object you will be using. So how we will generally do? Okay, we will get to that point. Okay, once I write the whole logic, then we will get to that point. And what is the class we are creating this object for? Class is com dot, where is this located? Com dot spring dot welcome spring. Right? We have created an object. Now, what is the property we are using? So for that you will specify something called property. And what is the property we are using within that object?
Print welcome.
Name.
Yeah.
Property. See,
Yeah.
print welcome is a method in that object, method in that class. But what are the properties or the attributes you are using in this class? Name. So you are specifying the property name as name. So we'll just give value as John or something. We'll just give some name. Some value as John. Right? Okay. So what are we trying to do? Instead of hard coding the value, we are just passing that from XML. We are just passing the value from the XML, and we are saying Spring has the capability to hold that object property. Alright. So what have we done? We have just created a simple file and we are setting the value in the XML. Okay. Are you guys clear till now? Is it clear? No? Okay. Fine. Second thing. Okay. We are done with our configuration and we are done with the business logic. What is the next thing pending? We have to test this. We have to test whether this really works or not. Alright. How to test this? We will write a test file. Oops. This is Hibernate, right? Okay. We will write test spring program or spring application, test spring app. And what do you require? You require a main method. Okay. Now, so simple logic. I want you guys to answer this. See, we need to call the print message, or what is the method we have written here?
Print welcome.
Print welcome. We need to call the print welcome method from our test main method. How can we do that? Generally, what you will do? You will do welcome spring and you will do print welcome, right? This is our normal practice.
Yeah.
But what are we saying? We are saying we are not interested to create a new object, right or wrong?
Yeah.
Right. How can we configure that then? How can you load? You can load that using beans. So where are the beans located? In Spring Beans XML. So it is here. Now what are we saying? We are not interested in this kind of implementation. Then in order to use this bean, what is the first thing you have to use? You have to load this XML in your program. If you load that XML, then only you will have the control to load a specific bean in that XML. Right or wrong? Do you guys agree? If you want to load anything from that XML, you need to have control of that XML first. So what we will do? We will load that XML first. So how can you load that XML first? From context. Right? So what is that context? It is called application context. And Naresh, you are asking, why do we use Spring context jar? Because we need to load all the beans into the context. Right? If you see the import, it is importing from org spring framework dot context. So it is importing from the Spring context jar. Are you guys able to see this?
Yeah.
Yes. So we are loading the Spring context. Okay. Application context. From where you are loading? You are loading it from resources, right? Where is your XML file? It is in the resources. That means where do you pick it up from? From class path XML application context. It is class path XML application context. And from class path XML application context, what is the name of the file you need to pick it up? Spring beans.xml. So now what are you doing? You are loading all the beans in this XML to the application context. Make sense? Is it clear? Now, what is the object we want? We want the object of welcome spring. So here we'll do welcome spring is equal to, we will not create a new object. We will load that from that XML. How can we load that from XML? We have the context object. Context dot get bean. We will do get bean means context dot get object. Get bean of what? What is the bean ID we have declared in the XML?
Welcome spring.
Welcome spring. So you will just copy that bean and you will paste it here. Right? What does it says? Type mismatch. So you need to convert that to welcome spring. So what are we doing here? In order to get your welcome spring object, you are loading the XML first, and from that XML you are getting the bean. And what does this bean refers to? This bean is welcome spring, right? And this is the name of the bean, and what is the class it is referring to? It is referring to welcome spring. So what does it gives us? It creates a new object and gives us that object, right? So now we are getting object reference. Correct? You guys agree or no?
Yeah. So in this case, if we have multiple objects,
Yes.
then only for once we'll load the spring beans,
Yes.
whatever XML,
Yes.
beans XML,
Yes.
and then we can make use of those objects.
Yes. So you will be loading everything in the spring context when initially the container loads up, and then you can use all these beans whenever you want to use. Right?
Okay.
Then it is easy to configure, easy to implement, right? And you're reducing your overhead. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So now what you will be doing here? What is our main motive? You need to call that method. Correct? So here, are we creating any new object?
No.
No, right? We are not doing anything new. Everything is taken care of. Spring container is taking care of creating a new object, and Spring itself is providing us an object for us. We can access any number of beans. So here we are discussing about welcome Spring. So if you want to give multiple beans, you can create any number of beans, but the ID needs to be unique. So you'll change your class also accordingly. So like that, you can load any number of beans, but whatever the bean you want to access, you need to get it. How you will get it? You will do context.getBean. Does that make sense? Is it clear or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to map it once. You need to map the bean once. Every time in the sense, so if you want to see, I have a welcome spring class, so I'm creating a welcome spring bean. Now, if I have a different class called welcome struts or something, then I'll be creating a bean welcome struts. So going forward, if I want to access this particular methods, this particular class methods or variables, then I'll be referring to this bean. Right? I will load this from the spring container and I will just call welcome struts dot. okay, do whatever I want, or welcome starts dot execute whatever methods I need to execute. Make sense? That is about creating different beans. Okay, we'll test our program. Okay, so we have created a simple Spring based applications, and what is our thing? We just created a POM, added dependencies in the POM, and 1 second, I need to plug in my charger. Yeah. So we have created a simple pom.xml with by adding the dependencies, and we have added a new class simple Pojo, and we have added okay. Okay, yeah. So welcome Spring.xml, and we have deployed everything in the form of beans in Spring Beans XML, and we have written our test application. Okay, so now we need to see whether we are able to invoke this method or not, right? After invoking this method, we are saying we are passing some value dynamically. We'll see whether we are able to print that value or not. Okay, now see, we are calling that print method, and also what is that it is printing? John. Where we declared that John? In that XML. So this Spring, this action class, consider this as an action class, and this action class is dependent on the property name. So you are injecting that property using setter. You are setting that name, but from where you are setting it? You are setting it from the beans XML. Make sense? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Everyone? Is there any confusion? That is about Spring. So this is Spring core. So what is dependency injection and what is the bean? So if you have any dependency on other class or any other bean or any other property, what you will be doing? You will be injecting that property into the dependent class. So what is the dependent class here? Welcome Spring is dependent on property called name. So what are you doing? You are setting a property called name here, and you are assigning some value. And how you are injecting that property in welcome bean? By using setter. You are setting it. From where you are setting it? You are setting it dynamically by Spring. And you are using this name attribute. Whatever it is setting from Spring, you are printing it here just to make sure whether Spring is setting that or not. Does that make sense, guys? Is everyone clear about this? All right. So that is about Spring basic core. Okay. Now, okay, we have learned about Spring core. Now what we will do? We will just try to move to Spring MVC. Okay. What is MVC? Again, just going back to our basics.
Model view controller.
Yeah. What is
Model view and controller?
Yeah, what is model view and controller?
View means JSP.
Mm-hmm.
Controller means .xml files.
.xml files.
Yeah.
And yeah, model means servlet strat string.
Yeah, action class like that.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Now again, you can implement the same kind of MVC using Spring also. All right. Makes sense? So you can implement the same kind of model, same kind of view, same kind of controller using Spring. Right? So what are the minimum requirements for that then? If you see MVC, you need to have model, view, controller. Right? What is the model? The Java file. In structure it is called as action. Right? In Spring it is called as controller. The name itself it is called as controller. Don't think that it is a regular controller. It is called as controller. What does that mean? It is an action class or it is a servlet class. Okay. View. What is the view component? View is JSPs. Controller. What is the controller? XML file. Not XML file. And what XML file? We will learn with an example. Okay. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what we will do? We'll try to replicate the same thing with an example here. So we will learn about Spring MVC as well. Okay. So Spring MVC, what type of an application it is? It is a web project, right? It is a web project or not? See, previously we have created a Spring Quick Start project, just a basic Quick Start project, and we added Spring dependency. Now, to make it run on server, we have to create a web application project. So we'll create a Maven project with what capability?
Web app.
Web
Web.
capability, and we'll name that project as Spring MVC. Okay, so a new web project is getting created for us. Are you guys following me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone? Bala, Likita, Monica, Naresh, Nikhil, Sainath, Vani.
Yes, yes, madam.
Yeah, Sainath, how about other guys? Narsimha, Midin.
I don't know, Venkat. I am in room.
Okay, Vani, where are your other friends? Sainath is
I,
right?
I too don't know, Venkat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's, I have mentioned it, right? So this will be our last session and we'll learn Spring and rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the important thing. Okay, yeah, maybe they'll go through the recording. Okay,
Okay.
yeah. So what we created? We just created a Spring web app. So here in the web app, so what is the first thing we have to do in the web app? Because it requires some server, we will add some server libraries so that there will not be any errors for server runtime. Okay, so first thing we have created that. Then what is the next thing? We are using Spring,
It depends.
yeah, Spring dependencies. So we need to add pom.xml dependencies. So what are the dependencies we need to add?
Spring MVC.
Spring MVC, yes. So just copy this dependency tag and what is the group ID? Org Spring Framework. What is the artifact ID? Spring Web MVC. We are interested to load Spring Web MVC. And what is the version? We'll use version as, oops, we'll use version as 3.2.13 release. Okay. Now, this is not for testing. Scope will remove the scope. Alright. Make sense? So we are just using a Spring Web MVC dependency. Okay, we are done with dependency. What is the next thing?
New pro.
Resources.
New class.
Yeah, so it's up to you whether you'll go with a view component or a model. Okay, as you guys said, we will go with a new class. So in this new package, MVC, oops, sorry. What is the package we'll give? Maybe we can give com.springmvc.controller or anything. So in this, we'll create a new class. Now, what is the class we'll give? We'll just give welcome controller. All right. So before getting into the actual implementation of this, what is an annotation? We have already discussed the meaning of annotation, right?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by annotation?
Mapping by using at the rate of.
Yeah, so that is technically, but what is the definition of it? Annotation,
It specifies the behavior.
yeah, it specifies the behavior.
Hello.
Yeah,
Behavior of any class or variable or any method.
yeah. So what does that mean? So if you do anything at the rate of something, at the rate of something, so it specifies a behavior to a particular variable or a method or a class. Okay, what do you mean by that? Say for example, if you use at the rate of override, what does that mean? It overrides
Yeah.
the method from parent, right? That is what we have learned.
Yeah.
What at the rate of entity means?
It means it is a table.
It treats the object as
Table.
a table. At the rate of table, it says what is the table name or table properties. So like that we have learned different annotations, right?
Annotations.
Now, okay, we'll just go back one step backwards. So in order to implement a struts action class, what is that we have to do? So we have written a struts action class, right? So what is that you have to do?
Override execute method.
Right. Before overriding, why you have to override execute method in the first place? Because you are extending action class, right? Because you are extending action class, that is the reason you are overriding execute method. What if you are not extending action class? This will be treated as a normal class. Then you will be overloading execute method.
Yeah, no need.
No need, because you are extending something, so you are overriding the features of the one which you are extending, right? Now, in Spring 3.1 onwards, in 3.x onwards, you need not extend anything, right? So it makes our life very easy. By seeing the code itself, it specifies whatever we are doing. Okay. Okay. So what is it we are doing here? We are writing a controller, correct? Controller is nothing but an action class. How do you call action class in struts? You will call the same as controller in Springs. Or it's simple like a servlet. Make sense? Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How can you specify that this class is a controller without extending anything?
Maybe by using annotations or something like that.
Yes, by using annotations. How can you use? So we'll specify at the rate controller. So what does this specify? So it says this controller is, or this file, this welcome controller is a Spring controller, right? This welcome file is a Spring controller. Make sense?
Yeah.
So at the rate annotation, annotation is at the rate. So what does it do? It specifies the behavior of a class or a method or a variable. So here, what is it specifying at the rate controller? It is specifying that this class acts as a controller, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. So here, what we'll do, and the next thing you have to learn or understand is in Spring 3.x WebMVC framework from right, controllers are treated as RESTful web services. They are treated as RESTful APIs itself, right? So you need not worry about it. They are making our life very easy. So instead of maintaining the complex project structures or overriding some defined methods from the superclass, you can write your own methods. You can just write your own business methods. There is no mandatory to override any of the superclass methods, right? Is it easy or not? So no one is forcing you to use only, you have to use only this particular method. Right? In struts, what is that? You have to particularly name your method as execute. Then only it will work. If not, it will not work, right? So here, what they are doing, from Spring 3.x onwards, they are making your life easy so that you need not write or you need not specify your superclass methods. All you are doing is you will write your own methods. But how can you make sure that you are calling your own methods? We will learn that.
So,
Yeah.
the before versions of Spring, it doesn't have this thing.
Yes. Yeah. It is not having annotations. So before
Okay.
versions 2.5.x or 2.5.6, what it was doing? You need to explicitly extends
Okay.
instead of specifying this because it was not having annotations. So you need to explicitly extend simple form controller or something. But this is deprecated. This is no more in use because now as the Spring version improves, right? They are not using the older versions.
Okay.
All right. So they are not.
Yeah.
So instead, that is the reason we are going to Spring 3.1, 3.x, right? So it is making our life easy. So if you are using Spring 2.5.x, definitely you have to override or definitely you have to extend some class. Then only it will understand that you are extending some feature. Okay. If you are extending something, definitely you have to override some other methods, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was forcing you to follow only those rules. You have to definitely follow those things, then only it will work for you. Right? But now it is making our life easy. It is saying use whatever you want. I don't even care. Spring says use whatever you want, I don't even care. But send me or inform me that you are calling or that you are executing this method. So our main intention is to how to inform this method. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we will be writing a business logic method. Are you guys clear till now?
Yes.
Yeah. So now we'll be writing our business logic method. So what is the business logic method we'll be doing? So we'll be writing public say string show message or welcome message something. Welcome message. And this will take parameter as model map. Oops. So if you are returning something, then you need to return string. Okay. So what are we saying? We are saying we are writing a simple method. We are writing a simple method that will take welcome message as a method name and returns welcome as a string. Right? So what we will do here to model, we will try to add a message. So we are interested to show some message on the screen. And what is that message? Something we will try to say. Welcome to my first Spring MVC program. Oh, yeah, we are just typing something. My first Spring MVC. Okay. So what have you written? You have written a simple method with this. All right. Okay. And what I will be doing, I will be writing one more method. Okay, public string welcome user message. Okay, and again I'll take some parameter here, and here what I will take the parameter, I'll just try to use a string username as parameter. Right, username as parameter. Now what are we returning? We are returning string, so we'll do return some string. Okay, so Naresh asked a question, why model map is used. Now what are we doing? We want to print something on the screen, so we want to map something, some message to the page, right? So if you want to add some message to a page, we need to access this message from this controller, right? So what are we doing? We are trying to add a message to model, and in the JSP we will try to retrieve it. All right, yeah. So once I complete the complete application, right, so then you guys will get to know why we are using what. All right, okay. So here what I'm doing, instead of using model map, I'm just passing a variable username. Now what I will do, I will just create my own user model and map, model and view, and I will add view name, set view name as welcome, and I will do model and view dot set or model and view dot add object. What is the object I am adding? Same thing, message. And what is the attribute value? Yeah, username. Okay, is it username? Yeah, and I'll be returning model and okay. That's about it. Oh, okay. See here I'm returning model and view, so the return type is model and view. Okay. So now I have written two different methods, right? One is a simple welcome message and return a message to user. Now second method is another method which uses welcome user message. So it takes parameter as username, right? We will try to see both, how both works. All right, okay, we are done with our controller. Are you guys clear till now? We will come back to this again. We are not done yet, we will come back to it. Right, okay, that is fine. So now what are we doing? We have written the model, which is the controller. Next, what is the thing we have to do? View. We have to do view. Where do you write your view? Main, web app, webinf, and within here you will specify something called JSP folder, and within this JSP folder you will write your JSP. And what is the JSP you're interested in? Welcome. Right, why welcome? Because you are returning to welcome, so automatically whenever you're returning welcome, it automatically identifies is there any file name with welcome, so it will append welcome.jsp. Alright, here also we are setting what is the set view name, it is welcome, so it identifies the welcome name as, or it identifies the file name as welcome.jsp. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Right, so now what we have to do, we have to create the JSP. Okay, we have created the JSP. So what are we interested in? String MVC. So what are we interested in? We just want to print something on this. Alright. So what is that something we will do? Maybe we will specify hello or welcome, and here the first thing is we are passing the username, right? We are passing the username from the method, so we need to get that username from the JSP. So in order to get the username from JSP, we have to use a Spring tag library. How to do that? So how we used the tag libraries in the structs capability? In order to use any tag libraries, you need to use @ what is that? Taglib, and you need to specify what type of tag libraries you want to use. I want to use Spring tag libraries. Okay, that's fine. But what is the URI? URI is Spring Framework. HTTP www.springframework.org/tags. See, this is very easy to remember. So just what are we trying to use? We are trying to use Spring tags. So from where? Spring Framework org.tags. Okay. So now what you will be eligible to use? You will be eligible to use Spring related tags. So what are you interested in? You're interested in printing username. Why username? Because we are setting the username in our controller, right? Right or wrong? We are setting the username in our controller, so we are interested more in getting the username. All right, fine. So what are we doing? We are just trying to print the username whatever the user is entering. Make sense? Is it clear till now, guys? Yeah. Okay. So we are done with model. We are done with view. And what is the next thing? What is the next thing?
Controller.xml file.
Yes, controller.xml. And where do we write it? We'll write that under webbinder. And what is the file? So now you will name that file as Spring web servlet. Okay, now, so again, we don't know how a Spring web servlet looks like. So I'll just go and find it out. Spring web configuration example. Now what we'll do, we'll just try to just go and see this one and try to get the root tag of it. Okay, yeah, so this is the root. So what we will do, we will just try to copy everything and we'll just see. Okay, now here, what is the diagram? Where is the diagram? This is the project architecture. Yeah, I'm at the top. This is the first part. I'm completely at the top. This is the project structure. Where do you saw that? Where? Previous link. This one. No. Only these two are The MKOng links I have opened. See, I am at the top of this link and I'm scrolling down. Do you see any diagram? I'm not able to see what you are saying. And this is my Google search link. And this is, again, I'm going to the top. This is my top of the example. And I'm scrolling down. This is the project architecture diagram. I mean, the project structure. How we have the same project structure. It is showing the same project structure. Okay. This is the files. These are the files. Yeah. Actually, I don't see any diagram. This is not the diagram. This is the website, the URL. They're accessing the local website. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. So, what are we doing now? I think I'm lost. Okay. Yeah. I think we are configuring the controller. Okay. So here, this is again the root tag. Why it is beans? Because Spring is configured in the form of beans.
Beans.
Right? So you'll specify beans. Now, second thing, the most important annotation or the most important tag we are trying to learn here. It is called context component scan. Right? Now, considering the previous example, do you guys see any difficulty in the previous example? In the previous example, we have something called bean, right? If you consider the previous example, do you guys see any difficulty here?
No.
No. The thing is, if you want to maintain 100 beans, for everything you need to configure the beans, correct? Right? Correct? If you have 100 classes in the project, you have to configure every bean in your project. Is it or not? Now, what if we still want to make our life simple and easy? We don't want to see. We are still lazy enough to write even this amount of code also. Right? We don't want to write each and every bean in this XML. Okay. What we'll say? So we'll say to Spring that, okay, Spring, I don't want to write each and every bean. Now, what I want you to do is scan the package. What is the package I'm giving? It is this package. So scan this package and treat every class under this package as a bean. Right? Treat every class under this package as bean. But what condition? They are annotation driven. If they are having any annotations, then treat all the classes under this package as beans. So here you need not specify each and every bean. Now we have welcome controller. So you have @ of controller. So that means it is annotation driven. So it will be automatically treated as a bean. Now, if you want to, if you have like hundreds of classes here, like in the same package, right? So you need not specify all these classes beans in the XML. So what you are saying, instead, just load all the classes under this package. So make my life easy. Still, I don't want to specify even those beans also. So just add everything under this package as beans. So that is what we are saying. And what is the tag that is used for? Context component scan. So it scans all the classes under this base package. And what is the base package? It is spring.com.springmbc.controller. And what are all the classes that you need to scan? You need to scan Only the classes that are annotation driven, that are having annotations. Does it make sense? Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay. Now, that is the first important thing. Second important thing, right? See, the second important thing in Spring MVC is Spring MVC supports lot of UI components. So till now we are dealing with HTML UI components, JSP UI components, right? Like that, right? Like that, Spring supports different other UI components like Velocity template, free marker, lot other UI components. So out of this, we need to specify Spring that what type of view we are using. So what type of views we are using? We are using JSPs as our views, right? Dot JSPs, right? So we need to specify Spring that, okay, Spring, I want my view component to be as .jsp files. Okay, we are saying .jsp files, but where are the files located? They are located under WebINF folder under JSP folder, right? Where we have created welcome.jsp. We have created welcome.jsp under WebINF under JSP folder, right? So we are specifying Spring that I want to use my JSPs as my view resolvers. So Spring has a bean called view resolver. So what does it specify? It specifies the type of your view component, right? So now before going there, I just say Spring different view resolvers, or Spring multiple view resolvers. Say see, if you want to make your XML as a view component, you will use XML view resolver. If you want to use JSP as your view component, you need to use internal resource view resolver. If you want to use a properties, then you'll use resource bundle view resolver, right? So it depends on your usage, right? See, in Spring MVC application, oftentimes you may be applying few view resolver strategies to resolve the view name. For example, combine these three view resolvers together. Internal view resolver is for JSPs, resource bundle view resolver is for properties file, and XML view resolver is for viewing XMLs. Make sense? Is it clear? So you can represent any kind of different view components by using Spring view resolvers. But what are we interested in? We are interested in JSPs. So we need to specify Spring that we want JSP view resolver. So if you are using JSP view resolver, what is the class you have to use? Internal resource view resolver. All right. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are done with our configuration file as well. Okay. And what are you specifying? What is component scan used for? Context component scan used for?
To scan all the classes of that package which annotation driven,
Yes, for
and then it considers them as beans.
beans. Then it considers them as beans. So what you will get out of it? What do you achieve? Instead of writing all the beans individually in the XML, you are specifying load everything under this. All right. Yeah, I'm just getting a call. I'll just log in back. 1 second. Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, you guys there? Yeah, sorry, I was getting a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So till now you have followed?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I was getting some messages, so I was replying to them. Okay. So we have used internal view resolver as JSP internal view resolver. So that we are setting or we are saying Spring as we are using JSP as our view components. Alright. Is it clear till now? Okay. So we are done with our model, we are done with our view, we are done with our controller. And what is that we are pending? We need to say our application that we are using Spring MVC. How can we say that? We have to use web.xml. Right or no? Do you guys agree or no? Yes. So, okay. Then how does the web.xml looks like? Okay. We will not take much pain of remembering everything. So just what we will do, we'll just try to see. Okay, we'll just try to copy the web.xml. Okay, what is this here? So here, when you are working on struts, right? What is that you have to do? You have done star.do, URL pattern as star.do, and you are giving pattern as star.do. If it is star.do, it is action, and action will refer to org.apache.starts action, right? But now, if it is slash, and if you want the Spring to be invoked, you will specify the mapping as maybe anything. You can just give this mapping as anything. Maybe Spring. Okay, Spring Web will go because we gave our application file as Spring-web, right? So you need to use the Spring-web, right? And what type of servlet it will call? Dispatcher servlet. So if you use just Spring, right, then you need to change your application as Spring-servlet. Servlet is the one which will be automatically added by this dispatcher servlet, right? Okay, so still if you guys are not convinced, I will change this to my Spring. And what is the file name I will be changing to? This file name, my Spring-servlet. Alright, I'm just giving my Spring-servlet, but in the web.xml, I'm not referring my Spring-servlet because -servlet will be automatically treated as a Spring XML file by web.xml. So all you have to give is the name as my Spring-servlet. But if you give the servlet name as my Spring, web.xml understands, okay, it needs to call my Spring-servlet. Make sense? Is it clear? So what are we saying? For every request go through Spring file. Alright, okay, fine. So now we are going to run our application, but wait, you are saying for each and every request you need to go, but have we mentioned in our controller which method to call? Have you mentioned that? No, we have not mentioned anything. So what is that we have to do? So here you need to specify another annotation to this method saying, okay, if it is this path, call this method. So what is the annotation to specify that? To use request mapping. So if you use request mapping, within that request mapping will specify value is equal to, if the value is slash, then make my method as request method of get. Okay, so what are you saying? If just the value is just the home URL, just the slash URL, then call this method. Okay, okay, if it is just slash, call this method. What if we change your path here? Okay, I want to access welcome or test. I want to access this method when I call /test/ what are we passing here? We are passing a username here, right, from the browser. So we'll just take that as username. What is that username? Username colon plus. So what does it specifies? That it is expecting a parameter. So when you call a generic URL, this method will be called. When you call this URL with test/username, it will call welcome username method. Make sense? And how can you access this parameter from the URL? There is another annotation called @ path variable. And what this will do? This will take the parameter as username. So whatever the parameter you are passing here, it will take here. Make sense? So what are you doing here? You are specifying different paths for these different methods. Why you are specifying different paths? So you want to differentiate which method to call. All right. Can you guys just give me a second? I'm just getting another call. Sorry for that. Yeah, sorry. So now this is what we did. So what we did different method calls. So we need to specify the different URLs for different methods. Okay, but when we execute our program, right, so then you guys will understand more clearly. All right, is it clear or no? Hello? 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 Guys, are you able to follow me? My voice?
Yeah, but can you explain once more?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one is confusing.
Okay, this one is a little confusing, right? So don't worry. When we'll try to run the example. We'll just try to run the example, then we will see. Okay. So are we done with model view and controller and configuring that in the web.xml also? We are done till now. Okay. So what we will do, we'll just run our application. Just run as on server. హలో మళ్ళా చేస్తానులే క్లాస్లో ఉన్నాను మళ్ళా చేస్తాను okay, our application is started, correct? So what is the URL for our application? This one. Okay, so now what are we saying? We need to access different methods. Okay, so now I'll try to use this tab. Okay, to make it clear, right? So what is the URL? This is the URL. So now here, what is the mapping we are doing? Here we will say hello, right? So whenever the request mapping is Spring and hello, call this method, right? So here we have called our main thing and we are calling Spring/hello. Okay, so what is that we are doing here? See here, what are we doing? Request mapping. If the request is mapping with /hello, okay, what is the request I'm sending? slash hello. So whenever the request is slash hello, execute this method. How you are saying execute this method? Because we are using an annotation called request mapping. So what is that request mapping used for? It maps the request, right? So what is the request we are sending here? This is our application name till here, right? Localhost or application. But within our application, which method you want to call? The first method. Initially, we want to test this method. So to specify or to differentiate that method, what are we doing? We are just passing the value as hello. So in the URL, what we are doing? We are just passing hello. So whenever just we are invoking this URL, it is redirecting to welcome. How come it is redirecting to welcome? We are just returning it to welcome. Make sense? No? Okay, that's fine. Even if it is not clear also, don't worry. I will take this example as well. So now we are saying if it is hello, execute that method. But I am saying I will change that to different call, test. So what is test? Test means this method. But what this method expects? This method takes test as well as one extra parameter. What is that extra parameter? Username. Java class. So I am passing the username as Java class. So what is the output we will get? So we are getting welcome and Java class. So why we are getting welcome and Java class as a value here? Because in the welcome.jsp we are printing the username. Is it clear, guys, or no? No, right? Not clear? Okay, it is not clear. Fine. So now what we said, from Spring 3.1 or from Spring 3.x onwards, the Spring controllers are treated as
Annotation.
RESTful services. Yeah, annotations, but they are treated as RESTful services. So what do you mean by RESTful services? So if you just access your URL with HTTP based methods, simple like localhost 8080 my app, within that I want to call test method, something like that, test. So if I just give this, I need to get some result, right? If I just give something other than this, I need to get another result, right? These are just REST URLs. So we are differentiating the URLs, right? Now what are we saying? If you are just trying to access these URLs, we need to execute our own specific logic. But how you are differentiating? If you access test, you need to execute test method or something related to test. Or if you execute welcome, then why only the welcome related method should come? If you execute welcome page, why only the welcome related message or welcome related method should be executed? How? Because we are using an annotation called @request mapping, correct? So what that will do, so if you are giving, see, this is our application, this makes sure that application is up and running, correct? Right? So now what are we saying? Within this application I want to execute a method which has the mapping as /hello. So now what it does, throughout this application, throughout our project, what is that we are trying to do? We are trying to display or we are trying to execute a method which takes the URL pattern as /hello, right? So here throughout this application it goes and see what are all the classes that has /hello. So where do you have /hello? It is in welcome controller, and within welcome controller what is the method? It is hello. So when you are executing any URL with /hello, the control will comes here and it will execute this method. All right, make sense? Is it not clear, guys?
Yeah.
No, no, I'm not understanding whether you guys got it or you're not understanding. Hello? Yeah, if you don't understand, please respond. No, we haven't understood. So something, I need some answer, yes or no. Okay, fine. See, simple thing. So here, just try to see, this is the application, right? Correct? This is the basic application. So what are we seeing here? The application is up and running. So the application is working perfectly fine. Now, what are we saying? Within this application, I want to execute my specific method, my own method. What is my own method? I have written many methods. One with welcome message, one with welcome user message. But how to make sure that I am calling only welcome message or I'm calling only welcome user message? See, I have differentiated these methods with different URL patterns, right? I'm saying if you call the URL with /hello, then execute this method. If you are calling the URL with /test, then execute this method. Is it clear till now?
Yes.
Yeah. So just give me one more second. Sorry, I'm getting one more call. Sorry, guys. Hello. Yeah, guys. Sorry, actually one person is calling. There is an interview, it seems, at 1 p.m. So we need to wind up. Okay, quickly. Okay. So what I am trying to tell is, so we have different URL mappings. So what we are saying, if I pass the URL as /hello, then execute this method. If I pass the URL as /test, I am executing this method. But how I am making sure that it needs to execute this method? Because we are adding at the rate of annotations request mapping. So if in the browser,
Request mapping.
if in the browser, okay, to make you guys more clear, I'll do in the JSP. Is this the project we are doing? Yeah. In the JSP, I'll do another JSP called test. Test method. Okay, and in the welcome controller, what I will do, instead of returning to welcome, I will return to test. Okay, got it? So now you'll understand clearly. So my application is restarting. Okay, yeah. So now, yeah, the application is up and running. So what is the thing? So first, yeah, we need to call hello, right? So if I give hello in my URL, which one I need to call? I'm mapping the URL here. So whenever the request mapping is hello, execute this method, right?
Yeah.
Simple, nothing. I, don't get confused. I'm just saying the URL pattern I'm matching here. See, whenever I'm calling the URL as hello, just try to identify where in the project you have the URL mapping as /hello. Where do you have the URL mapping as /hello? In this method.
Method.
In this method, I have the URL mapping. So the Spring identifies that /hello is present here. So it says, okay, it is present here. So it will execute this method. Okay. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Now, so what we are doing here? Okay. If it executes this method, we are returning it to test.jsp. We are returning it to test. So whenever this method is executing, we are returning it to test. So test means it will go to test.jsp. So what is there in test.jsp? Just we have written this control is from test method. So when I execute or when I enter this URL, do you guys understand now?
Yeah, Venkat, what for add attribute?
Yeah, suppose if you want add any values, if you want to display anything on your page, right? So here you are displaying welcome. So here in our test.jsp, we want to display something message. So how can you display that message? By using this. So we will try to add this tag library here, and so that the message is, what is the message? We are setting in the message. Alright. So now you execute. So what is the message? So you are setting some message. So you are using model dot add attribute is to set some message. If you want to send some message from your controller to from your Java program to JSP, you can add all the attributes to your model. So to which model, to which attribute we added? We added to message. So we are accessing using
J.
JSP. What is the parameter we are accessing? Message. If you set that to my message, okay, Then what is the attribute that you need to access in your JSP?
My
My message. So now, and okay, to make sure that I'll change the test message as well. Here, welcome to Spring first. So I'm removing my first. Welcome to Spring MVC is just the message I'm using. So now, if I execute this URL again, so what is the message we are getting? Welcome to Spring MVC. How come we are getting that on the screen? Because we are adding that to the model as an attribute and we are retrieving that attribute here. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? This is one type, right? Why it is one
Yes.
type? Because we are accessing slash hello. So slash hello means it executes this pattern. Now, what is the other thing? We have something called slash test, and also this one expects some value, right? So what is that? So instead of hello, I call test, and also test will pass or test will expect some value. Test John. I'm passing John as a value. So now if I enter this, it says welcome John. Why it says welcome John? Because we are redirecting to set view name as welcome. Correct? Set view name as welcome. So it go to welcome.jsp. And what we are doing in welcome.jsp? We are printing welcome and the username that we are passing. What is the username we are passing? John. So how come it understands that it goes to that method only? Because we are specifying the annotation as slash test and slash username. And how you'll catch the username as a variable? There is an annotation called at the rate of path variable. So at the rate of path variable understands that it is a path variable. It is passing from the browser. Make sense? Is it clear, guys?
Yeah, Venkat.
Yeah.
Here also we can use model map instead of model and view, right?
Yeah, you can use that. See, here,
Is there any
the other
potential?
thing is, see here, you're returning it as string. Here also you can use the same thing. There is nothing wrong. But here what you will do? You'll just return it as string instead of that. So just I want to make sure that we have a different approach. I have done that. We already did that with string, right? So there is no
Yeah.
point of showing the same thing again. So
Yeah.
that is the reason I have added a different thing here, right? If we just copy the same thing, what will be the difference you will be knowing, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So that is about Spring MVC. Are you guys clear?
Yeah.
Everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about Spring MVC and Spring 3.x onwards. These are treated as RESTful APIs. So why it is called RESTful APIs? Because these methods are treated as GET methods. If you see GET, what are RESTful methods? First of all, GET, put, post, delete. So these are the different RESTful methods. If you handle these RESTful methods, then it is a RESTful based web service. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
So if you handle all these HTTP methods, then it is RESTful service. So what is a RESTful service? RESTful service or RESTful API is a service which follows HTTP based methods. So what are HTTP based methods? Get, put, post, delete. So we already discussed about get and post. So what is get used for? To get something. What is post used for? To post something.
Post to server.
So how we are differentiating? If you are specifying your method as request method dot get, then it is a get method. If you specify your method as request method dot post, then it will post. It will treat as post method. This is nothing but a simple RESTful call. So how you will be implementing a RESTful web service? By using Spring 3.1 controllers, Spring 3 controllers. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Everyone, is it clear, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So now What is the other thing? Okay, this we are saying Spring 3 as a RESTful API, right? Okay, are there any other ways to implement a RESTful API? Yes, there are few other different ways also to implement a RESTful API. Actually, I'll try to see if I can complete in 5 minutes. I'll be completing. If not, we'll be meeting after half an hour because I have an interview at 1 p.m. All right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll just try to see. Okay. So actually, we'll have like 15 more minutes. It will take like 15 minutes to complete the RESTful service. Okay. Uh, okay. Then Naresh is asking us to complete this session after half an hour. Okay. We'll talk at 1:30 or 1:45 Central Time.
Okay.
All right, which is
Yeah.
see 1:45, around 1:45 Central Time, which is 2:45 Eastern Time, and which is 11:45 Pacific Time, East PST. All right, and this will not take more than 15-20 minutes. Just 15-20 minutes. That's it. All right. Are you guys everyone okay for this? Right? Eastern time, guys. PST time, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vani,
Yeah.
Sainath, Nikhil, Naresh, Monica, Likita, Balakrishna.
Yes.
Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what have we discussed till now? We have discussed about Spring Framework. So, is everyone clear about Springs?
Yeah.
Right? So, we have learned Spring as well. And we have learned Maven as well already. So, we'll just keep it here. So, what is the final thing we have? REST APIs. Okay, we'll discuss this REST APIs concept in some time after half an hour. So if my let me stop the recording.